It all started a week ago. Someone put a timeout doll at our local playground. If you're not familiar, they're life-size dolls that look like children in timeout or playing hide and seek. They lean face first against the wall, hiding their faces with their hands. You only ever see the back of them. Some are handmade, using old kids' clothes. Maybe a hat, a wig, and some straw for stuffing. The first time I saw one at the playground, I thought it was a real kid. So did my 5-year-old. He went up to the thing and asked, "Wanna play hide and seek?" It didn't move. I watched from the bench, fear sinking in. Why isn't that kid moving? He or she, it was hard to tell from the longish blonde hair and a bucket hat, was leaned against the green plastic tunnel that Ryan liked to crawl through, just standing there, totally still. But as I approached, I saw the plasticky shine of its curly blonde hair, the snow-white neck poking out from the shirt's collar. I raised my hand and, slowly, gave it a poke. It wobbled against the tunnel. It's a doll. My stomach dropped. Is this someone's idea of being cute? It felt like something an 80-year-old granny would do. The type that likes Precious Moments figurines and buys those hyper-realistic baby dolls. Or maybe it's a prank. I could see a group of teenagers leaving it here, just to freak out parents. Maybe they hide in the bushes and film people's reactions and put it on TikTok or something. Either way, it creeped me out. Just standing there, totally still, leaned up against the tunnel like that. Its face lined up perfectly with one of the circular holes cut into the tunnel wall, like it was peering inside. "What is it?" Ryan asked, staring at it. "It's a doll. They call them timeout dolls because they look like they're in timeout," I replied. "Oh." Then he got on his hands and knees and, before I could stop him, scooted into the tunnel. "Ryan?" "Hi," he said, his voice echoing in the plastic. "Do you want to play?" "Come on, Ryan." "It has no face." "Why does it not have a face?" "Come on, let's get out of there," I said, the uneasiness in my stomach growing. He finally popped his head out and smiled at me. "Can we make sandcastles?" "Sure," I replied. I hated making sandcastles, getting sand all over my jeans, but it was loads better than dealing with this creepy doll. A few days later, when we went back to the playground, it was still there. The after-school crowd was there, running up the jungle gym and racing down the slides. But there was one child that was standing still among the commotion. That stupid doll. It was in the same place as before, leaned against the tunnel. I whipped around, half expecting to see some giggling teenagers filming us. But there were only tired zombie parents glued to their phones, chaotic kids racing across the mulch. I went back to my phone, scrolling through the news. When I looked up a minute later, the doll was in a different place. It was now leaned up against the slide, hiding its face against the green plastic. My heart sank. One of the kids must have moved it, I thought. I glanced around at all the screeching and whooping kids. "Right?" I waved to Ryan, about to go down the slide, and put my phone away. I didn't want to take my eyes off him anymore. He waved back, grinning toothily, his bright yellow hat sticking out among the crowd. But there is always something to distract us from our kids. Dirty dishes in the sink, unread emails. There's always something tugging at our sleeve, crying for our attention. And for me today, it was a phone call. As I answered my client's questions about the logo and branding images I designed for her, my eyes strayed from the playground. And when I looked back, I couldn't see Ryan anymore. I dropped the phone and stood up. "Ryan?" Nothing. I ran around the side of the playground, and that's when I saw his yellow hat. Not on Ryan, on that fucking timeout doll. It was now leaned against the rock climbing wall, hands covering its face, shirt softly rippling in the wind, blonde shiny curls poking out from my son's hat. My blood ran cold, Animalistic fear pounded through my veins. This is wrong. So wrong. I opened my mouth to scream for Ryan. We switched hats. I whipped around to see Ryan standing there, perfectly fine, wearing the doll's bucket hat. I let out a breath, sunk to my knees. Thank God you're okay, I said, voice warbling, pulling him into a hug. I'm okay, he replied, confused. Can we go on the swings? Okay, yeah, buddy, but let's switch your hat back first. Barely looking at the wretched doll, I reached over and yanked off the yellow hat. Put its hat back on, I told him, and then we made our way to the swings. I spent a while there, just pushing him, enjoying the sunny, if cold, spring day. The tension began to melt away. Ryan was safe, and everything was fine. Eventually, as the sun began to set, we made our way back to the parking lot. As I mentally thought through the steps of preparing dinner, I needed to cut some carrots, and did we remember to buy heavy cream? Ryan tugged at my sleeve. Why is it there? No, the doll. It was now at the edge of the parking lot, leaning against a tree. One of the kids must have moved it out here. Why? They probably thought it was funny. Come on, let's go. We quickly got in the car and drove home. That night, I decided we would go to a different playground for a few days. The doll was freaking me out too much. Yeah, maybe it was irrational, but no one said we had to go to that playground. I'd take him to the one in Edgewood tomorrow. As I put Ryan's hat away, I noticed several strands of curly blonde hair stuck inside. Actually, more than several. I pulled them out, my stomach turning a little, and then threw them in the trash. Then I sat down, settled in, and took a sip of tea. Just as I was finally relaxing, I heard Ryan's voice upstairs. Mom! I dropped the cup of tea and ran up the stairs. Mom! Mom! He continued yelling, fear threading his voice. I burst into the room. Ryan was cowering in the corner of his bed, covers up to his neck. It's in my closet, he whispered. What's in your closet? I asked, fear pounding through me. The doll. No, it's got to be a nightmare. I paced towards the closet. The door was ajar, the darkness spilling out of it. With each step, my heart sank further. It can't be. Just a nightmare. I sucked in a breath and swung the door open. No, it wasn't a nightmare. There, in the darkness, stood the timeout doll. It was leaned against the hanging clothes, pressing its face into Ryan's shirts. Its blonde curls shone softly in the darkness. I raced over to Ryan and picked him up out of bed. We're getting out of here, I said, charging out of the room and toward the stairs. It wasn't a possessed doll. Those don't exist. Someone had to put the doll there, which meant someone was in our house. Mark. It could be Mark. Some sort of sick, twisted way to get back at me for getting the house in the settlement. Did he still have the keys? I raced down the stairs, Ryan bobbing with each step. When I got to the landing, I glanced back. No. The doll was at the top of the stairs now, face pressed into the wall. I raced to the front door, grabbed the doorknob, yanked it open, and glanced back. The doll was on the landing, and was that a shadow next to it? Someone standing there? I ran across the front yard towards the neighbor's house. I pounded on the door, crying, "Let me in! Someone broke into our house! Please!" As I took a final glance at our house, I saw the doll leaned against the oak tree in our front yard. The police didn't find anything. No doll, no evidence of a break-in. With nothing to go on, they left, telling me they would call me if they got in touch with Mark. Ryan and I are staying at a friend's house for a few days, while we get our bearings and try to figure out what's going on here. But I'm worried, because last night, when I went to check on Ryan to see if he was asleep yet, I found an empty bed. Ryan was standing in the corner of the room, leaning against the wall, hands over his face. "What are you doing?" I whispered, tugging at his arm. "Go back to bed. Now." He turned towards me, hands still pressed against his eyes. "He isn't in timeout, Mommy," he said. I stopped in my tracks. "What?" "He's playing hide and seek," he continued. "Now he's hiding, and it's my turn to seek."